seconds. Let's finish this.
What's up, everybody? It's Yonkir with my Fallout 4 analysis. Bethesda recently dropped the official trailer for the upcoming Automatron DLC. It's fairly straightforward, but I'd like to go ahead and point out a few interesting things anyway for your viewing pleasure. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. The trailer opens with a shot of who I'm assuming to be the quest giver, this somewhat awkward-looking robot with some interesting features like the pouches and bags, which I'm assuming will add to the maximum weight that the robot can carry for you. So if your character doesn't have a lot of strength, you could possibly add pouches and bags to the robot so you can actually give them more items and equipment. So that could be a handy feature if it turns out to be like that. And the robot seems to have fended off a bunch of other rogue robots based on the corpses lying around. This is probably the point in which the robot will give you the quest to start the Automatron DLC questline, so very interesting indeed. Next up, we have a factory of sorts, and this is likely one of the layers of the mechanist, if not one section of the layer of the mechanist. This is where robots seem to be mass-produced, and we can see various components like legs and other body parts being moved around. And to the bottom left here is a patrol robot of sorts guarding the factory. Just lots of cool little details. We are then shown some pretty crazy looking robots emerging from the jail cells, and this really sells the idea that these robots have gone rogue at the hands of the mechanist. The mechanist is sort of puppeteering this entire event, whatever it may be. And one thing that I noticed here is that the legs have similar features to the ones shown in the factory in the previous shot. And so that just goes to show that these robots are indeed being mass-produced and mass-modded, so to speak. And they are pretty heavily weaponized, especially the arms right here. They look like they could be gamma guns or just some kind of powerful laser-like weapon. This next robot reminds me a lot of the Robotron, especially the head. So I think this could be a modified Robotron. So the head is that of a Robotron, but the legs seem to be that of Sentry bots with the tripod wheel legs design that adds more speed and mobility. And also interesting to note is that the arms have sort of mismatched weapons. So it looks like you can mix and match weapons on the arms, which is really nice for those who want to really add more flexibility with what your custom robot can do. Next, we are shown a vault door opening. This could be indication that the mechanist might have taken over a vault to do all this, or perhaps repurposed the vault to manufacture and mod robots to create his robot army. Another possibility is that this could be one of those fucked up vault facilities. You know how different vaults have different purposes for different experiments? Maybe this vault is one of those experiments gone wrong and the mechanist took advantage of it. Maybe something along those lines. Anyway, as the vault opens, we are shown none other than Robobrain, which was mysteriously absent from Fallout 4, so welcome back, buddy. In the next shot, we are shown what looks to be a very shady looking base of operations. Now, this reminds me a lot of the super mutant layers, except instead of human organs and corpses ripped to shreds, we see the same treatment done to robots. So it's like this robotic version of super mutant layers, which is very interesting. You can see like robot corpses on spikes and stuff. It looks very violent, except no blood, just mechanical stuff scattered everywhere. But yeah, just very similar aesthetics to super mutant layers, but with a robot mechanic theme thrown in the mix. Same goes for this next shot. I mean, it just gives off a sense of dread with a skull on the robot. I mean, it looks like a pretty terrible place to be a robot. And in the middle here, we see what looks to be a bigger, modified version of the Sentry bot, likely the leader of this particular layer, and we will see it in action in a later shot, so stay tuned for that. But let's move on to this next shot where we get a closer look at the quest giver. It's definitely an old Assaultron of sorts with various parts switched in and out. It looks like maybe it was a prototype that just kind of got thrown out. I don't know, it just looks very rustic, like it's an early version or something. and it looks like it's been tampered with a lot. I mean, you look at the head and the arms, it's all mismatched, just a weird looking robot. We are then shown what the robot modding stations look like, and they look pretty neat. We're also shown samples of just how much mixing and matching you can do with these robot parts. Like here, we see a Protectron head coupled with a heavily armored version of a Robobrain body with like heavy weapons on the arms. We've got a big ass saw on the right arm and a crane on the left. So this is likely a very melee heavy build. Just looks pretty insane, looks crazy just how many combinations there are to make these robots come to life. Here's another example. We've got a Protectron just stripped naked and then being modified with various body builds and a Robobrain head. Just a lot of crazy, ridiculous looking customization that I think a lot of people will enjoy. Then we have this other crazy build with Robobrain-like caterpillar tracks, an Assaultron's right arm, a left arm with what I'm assuming to be some kind of plasma rifle, and a unique looking body and head. I don't think I've quite seen these before. And of course we've got the silly builds. You've always got to have a silly scene in a Fallout trailer, and here we see what looks to be a pink Mr. Handy with legs, because why not? So not only can you mix and match parts, but also it looks like you can customize colors and even add details like pouches, which again I'm assuming will add to the amount of weight that your robot companion can carry. Now this next one here looks really scary. It's like the devil in robot form. Scary as hell. I'm looking forward to seeing how this particular robot functions for those who build something like this. And as if that wasn't enough, we have this nasty looking sentry bot with a mascot head for a head. Lovely. But the point of this game is that regardless of what you make at the station, you can take your customized robot and use it as your companion, which is probably the biggest draw of this DLC. We are then shown even more shots of just crazy amount of variety in robots. We got this blue one here that has a Mr. Handy body, Protectron legs, and weaponized arms like this Gatling gun. And then this one here is mostly comprised of Robotron parts, but features this bulky and scary top part along with flamethrowers for arms. And then we got this random ass ghoul here. I don't know what he's doing, but he's about to get the shit kicked out of him. And then we have this next shot, and I cannot even describe these ones here. They look like they were pulled straight out of Transformers. The laser being shot here should be familiar though, same laser as the ones that the Assaultrons use. But this Assaultron also has some very heavy melee weapons attached to arms, so it's good for both long range and close range it seems. Then we have this demonic Ronin-like Protectron fighting a bulked up Mr. Handy with heavy melee attacks. Yeah, never thought I'd see a buff-looking Mr. Handy. We then see the build we saw in this previous shot in action, and this one is also very melee-based, likely a lot of armor, a lot of defense, very tanky, very interesting looking indeed. And then we have this ridiculous-looking sentry bot rocket propelling itself to charge itself at this helpless robot. Now, something interesting that I noticed is that you can see the propeller leaving trails of fire behind. So I'm thinking that the fire itself might actually do some damage to anyone behind the robot as it's propelling itself. We then have another build with an Assaultron head, featuring Protectron legs this time along with various bags and pouches. And the left arm also features what looks to be a shish kebab-like weapon, so the weapons themselves will also be very customizable. Moving on, we see the player character walking into a room full of lasers, likely heading into the mechanist lair. Although the lasers don't really seem to be doing anything though. I don't know if it's just a detection system or if it is giving the player radiation or something. I'm not exactly sure, but I guess we'll find out when the game ships. But the player is holding some kind of new weapon, a heavy melee weapon with a saw at the end. It's what I like to call the chainsaw staff. Not official name, but that's pretty much what it looks like. And we will see it in action later, so stay tuned for that. We are then shown what seems to be another new weapon for the Automatron DLC, and this one is very reminiscent of the Alien Blaster, but it looks a bit more rustic, definitely slightly different designs here and there. And based on the trailer, what it seems to do is deliver this powerful laser attack very much akin to what you would see with something like the laser musket. And alongside the new weapons, you can also see some new armor parts. I particularly love the iBot-shaped helmet. I think a lot of people will enjoy wearing that. Now, this next shot is kind of a blur, but it looks like the player is being attacked by rogue handymen, which are destroyed soon after by this mine that the player character drops. We then see the player character getting completely decimated by this crazy-looking robot with twin swords with an awesome finisher move. Rest in pieces, buddy. I mean, Jesus Christ. The player character then returns the favor in the next shot by showing us what the new melee weapon from the previous shot looks like in action. So it looks like this weapon isn't swung around, but rather treated like a chainsaw staff of sorts, hence why I call it the chainsaw staff. And here we have what looks to be yet another new weapon. It's a heavy rifle of sorts that shoots concentrated electricity, and it looks to be pretty powerful. I mean, it just completely decimates this slightly modified and armored iBot. We also see some other new armor pieces in this shot, particularly this cool looking new helmet. Then in this next shot, we see more of the new electricity-based weapon in action here. And it actually reminds me a lot of the Elder Scrolls lightning attacks in that you can see here it actually chain links to nearby targets. So yeah, definitely a very powerful weapon. We are then taken back to that super mutant-like mechanical layers, and we actually get to see the giant robot from that previous shot in action. We see it come to life here, and holy shit does it look scary. I mean, it spits out balls of fire, and it can even charge at you from a distance, so this one definitely seems to be a boss battle of sorts. They're probably the equivalent of death claws in this DLC. Last but not least, we are shown a close look at the Mechanist, and I love the design. Definitely a lot of similarities to the Fallout 3 design, but much cleaner looking, less rusty, and you can also see the super villain-like M on the forehead, which is pretty funny. Now, I wonder who's the man behind the suit. Not sure if it's the same man from Fallout 3, Scott Bean Walensky, but Fallout 4 does take place only 10 years after Fallout 3, so it's certainly not impossible. And there's also, of course, the possibility that this is an entire new character that sort of took up the mantle of the Mechanist and made it his own. Now, I should mention that the Mechanist is actually referenced somewhat in Fallout 4 through this fictional series within the Fallout universe called The Silver Shroud, and the Mechanist is sort of the main villain of that series, with the Silver Shroud being sort of a superhero of sorts. So I'm not sure if there's any relation to that, but it's worth noting. Regardless, a very cool final shot showing us one last time just the insane amount of variety of robots we will see in this new DLC. And of course, the trailer concludes with the title. Now, I would like to point out just how much the logo looks like it's straight out of a comic book. There's definitely this sort of superhero versus supervillain motif in this particular shot, and you know, the M on the Mechanist's helmet definitely gives off the vibe that he's sort of a supervillain. And even in Fallout 3, you had the Mechanist versus the Antagonizer, very much a superhero, supervillain relationship, only this time the Mechanist seems to be the villain, and I guess that makes the Automatron the hero? Could that mean that you receive the title of Automatron by DLC's end? Maybe that's your new superhero tag or something by the time you finish the storyline, I don't know. And again, there's the possibility that maybe the Silver Shroud is somehow related to this, who knows? But it's just something that I noticed, this superhero, supervillain motif, and I get the feeling that that might come into play somehow. We'll see. So there you have it, folks. With that, I would like to end my analysis of Fallout 4's upcoming Automatron DLC. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know in the comments below your thoughts about the trailer. And to be further updated on Fallout 4, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.